The swing state of Arizona just recently invoked a rule and a law from over 150 years ago saying that you cannot have an abortion unless the life of the mother is at risk. So, folks, a swing state, one of the most important ones in this election, in my prediction, will be at the tipping point of this abortion fiasco. And we're going to get right into the numbers backing that right now. So, right before I get into the numbers, I wanted to just take a detour. One of the biggest liberal shills called Let's Talk Election, who wears press on nails, is a Harvard alumni. Basically, this guy is in the Ivy League, and so he's supposed to be smart. Now, he's conjecturing from the liberal point of view that the Arizona GOP court had just handed the Democrats a victory in 2024. Let me tell you why that is not true. Let's consult the map. So just looking at this real quick, we have a map that is pretty even, not accounting for the states that I think might be close in this election. But let's get more into detail. So just looking at the general election polling, this is before the abortion stuff is taken into account. These polls are based off at most recent 2 days ago. As of 2 days ago, in the most recent poll, which is huge, morning consult, you have Trump up by 1 point, okay? So in the aggregate, he's up by 0.6. So liberals are basically saying that there's an uptick in Joe Biden support. So getting back to the map at hand here, we can really see that this is going to be a really close one. So as we all know, the 2022 election was arguably swayed to the Democrats over the one issue of abortion. Why is this important? Well, looking at the facts, we can see that the Democrats picked a net seat with them having the presidency by weird means. We have Kamala splitting the tie basically at that point and having a Democrat lead, okay? Now, what's interesting about this is that why did that happen? Joe Biden is an inadequate president by any means, no charisma, no sauce, Elriz, okay, but the guy has one cudgel to beat the Republicans with. Now, of course, he completely boggled the economy, completely fumbled the Afghanistan withdrawal. But what's more, of course, is that the abortion issue is one thing that he could hold on to. And so that was the key thing that screwed over Republicans in a myriad of different circumstances. You could say it got Carrie Lake to lose her election. Clearly, there was stuff going on in that election. But, I mean, had the abortion thing not been an issue, she would have won regardless of that. Again, abortion in Georgia, another issue. So, again, suburban white women, where y'all at? So, looking at that, we have some data to consult you with how abortion affects the election. Because, again, Donald Trump put out his position, which was pretty moderate. In fact, whereas Arizona, which is a swing state where we have a Senate nominee, apparently, in Carrie Lake, she is basically denouncing and, going back on what she said a couple of years ago. And, in fact, is anti this new law because basically the logic is, folks, that Donald Trump and the Republicans are saying, you know what, we're going to leave these things to the states. And if these Republican states want to ban abortion, it won't be our problem because abortion is supported by most Americans. In fact, when you look at it, 80% of Democrats are pro-choice in the vague sense, whereas it's about 40% of Republicans that are. So when you look at the math, it looks like about 2/3 of Americans are pro-choice to some extent. So when we're taking a totality sort of like pro-life position, that is actually untenable in national politics or at the state level when it comes to a swing state like Arizona. And so that's why we have people like Carrie Lake losing in 22, Blake Masters losing in 22, or in Pennsylvania, again, Mehmet Oz and Mastriano, people like this losing to Shapiro and others like that. And so we have to really take that into consideration. Now, moving on, we've got the other topic, which is going to be how abortion really affected the 2022 elections. Because as we know, we have those losses already tallied up, but there's numbers to back this up. So looking at this, you can see the paragraph. So just look at this. This study or whatever, this article was made December 7th. So this was about 5 months ago. So this was before all this abortion hysteria happened. But when you look at this, the second most commonly cited issue by voters in 6 swing states behind the economy was abortion, okay? So if you look at it that way, it's probably a top 3 issue, all right? Now, again, when you look at all these things in isolation, you'll see that the economy is obviously a Republican strength. When we look at abortion, that is a weakness. But everything else you could see as a W for Republicans. So it is really a problem of abortion being a huge, huge weakness and Achilles heel for the Republican Party. So when we're looking at this election, we're looking at one in where Ohio is going Republican, of course, but the referendum in 2023, I think, was really Democrat. It was a Democrat dub. They won that election by a lot. So looking at a state that Trump won by upwards of 10% in 2020, the right to reproductive freedom and protections for health and safety allegedly won by 56 to 43. So again, that's a 20% inversion. So that means that like 15% of the Trump voters from 2020 voted for pro-choice policy in Ohio. So when you're looking at it that way, we're losing a ton of voters by being hardline on abortion, which is why Trump being kind of wishy-washy on it is actually genius and the only right play to make here. But nevertheless, let's look at it this way. I mean, the analogy would be for Republicans on abortion is that you're already in a lopsided L, okay? Imagine you have some bum wide receivers. Let's say you've got Jerry Jeudy against Sauce Gardner. You've got Cortland Sutton versus Patrick Surtain. You could either throw it to one of them and probably have it intercepted, or you could just check it to the running back and get 2 yards. And meanwhile, that is not a satisfying answer. That is at least going to keep you alive in the game. And that's exactly what Trump did here, was say, you know what, we're losing on this issue. So let me just make it as ambiguous as possible. And the best trait of a salesman is to inspire a dream or a narrative in the person they're selling themselves to and say, well, Trump says that I could do whatever I want in my own state. So why would I have an opinion as to whether he thinks I should have an abortion or not? And so that's the idea. These tenements, if you were to read into it, would be the center focus of the 1996 Bill Clinton triangulation strategy for his reelection campaign. But moving on, let's go back to this map. So while you might think if the Republicans lose the conservative versus liberal vote on abortion by about 15% in Ohio, then that means that he automatically loses Arizona, Georgia, etc. It doesn't work that way, okay? Abortion seems to be the third biggest issue, and it's the biggest issue among Democrats. So that mathematically is very different from what I said before. Now, keep in mind, in a state like North Carolina, that's not going to be in question, all right? But abortion, what it will do for Joe Biden is it'll raise the floor for his electoral promise. What I mean is that he'll basically be able to avoid losing by that much. So basically, if abortion is seen to be in threat to the Democrat electorate and they care about that the most out of anything else more than the economy, because clearly they're losing on that, then it seems to me as if the floor will raise for Democrats. Doesn't mean they're going to win. It just means that it'll be closer no matter what. So, for instance, when it comes to Joe Biden, you could say his vague, nebulous support base is about 40%. Just like straight up, like if you put a gun to somebody's head, 40% of Americans would vote for Joe Biden against Trump. That being said, there's another 5 to 7% that, based on abortion, will just vote for him out of spite because they're so wrapped up in that pro-choice hysteria. What that means is that, you know, a state where Biden would have been close to losing in Virginia, Colorado, New Mexico will most likely go blue. So it reinforces the blue wall, so to speak. So when it comes to Minnesota, again, the same policy applies. But other states are trending less so much. So New Hampshire will keep us blue for now. But when we're looking at Florida, that is way too far gone for the Democrats, and that's a blessing to many. But I mean, also, there's a good amount of states left, like about 6 that are in question, namely Arizona, which again has this huge conundrum when it comes to having this 123-year-long rule evoked out of a 5-7 majority Republican Doug Ducey appointed Supreme Court that basically says that you cannot have any abortion outside of the life of the mother being in danger, which is a crazy thing to have been said out of my mouth. Okay, I wouldn't see this coming. It's really it's like when you're suffering from success, you know, the DJ Khaled album. It's because it's like a huge problem now. It's a sort of Damocles. You get your conservative policy done, but then the pendulum shifts back and forth. Okay, so for example, let's say you had universal hormones for trans kids. The super far left would really love that, but of course they would lose the next election because that's like ridiculous. And it's the same thing with abortion. You could ban almost all of it, which is great, and I am thankful that a lot of babies in my state are going to be alive now, but electorally it is horrible for Republicans, which is why Trump distancing himself and being wishy-washy makes sense. Same thing with Carrie Lake to a lesser extent as well. But I mean, just looking at the facts here, we are really examining a shift of the guard here. Now, this is the kill shot in the argument for this election prediction, okay, folks? In all 6 states polled, and again, swing states, Joe Biden's 2020 voters are more likely than Donald Trump's 2020 voters to cite abortion as the issue that will be the most important for the next election, okay? Now, here is the major news you need to understand, okay? Highlighted here. Pennsylvania, 20% of voters say abortion is the biggest issue, whereas it's only 10% in Michigan. 17% to 8% in Florida, so it varies a lot, okay? So look at that. So Pennsylvania has abortion as twice the issue as Michigan, which kind of makes sense because Pennsylvanians, out of these three Rust Belt states, are the least socially conservative, okay? So, with that being said, what that means is that it's more likely for it to go blue on two bases. One being Bob Casey Jr. being a strong Democratic senator candidate, uplifting Biden theoretically. That's a marginal thing. Now, second, and way more significantly, is that the biggest issue for Democrats is abortion, for one, and two, it is the biggest state out of these three and out of the 6 swing states overall that will have abortion as the biggest issue. So that basically means that nets about 1.5% more of the vote for Joe Biden on the aggregate. Okay. When that is extrapolated to mean that that's more likely to be a W than not for Joe, then that means that you're going to keep the state blue, theoretically. Now, there's other numbers that we need to take care of. So out of these states, now, here's another banger of a quote here. No more than 30% of voters polled in any of the 6 swing states think abortion is generally wrong, okay? So think about that. You people and some of the people that support DeSantis in the primary and like all these people that are very hyper fixated on morality and whatnot are just not missing, like they're missing the plot for sure because they're, okay, look at the facts. Only 30% of people agree abortion is actually wrong, bro. You cannot win a moral argument in politics with only 30% of support. It just doesn't work that way. It literally does not. It literally does not. So when it comes to Trump being wishy-washy on an issue that is no doubt important, where it's life or death, I concede that, there is no arguing it. Okay? Why did the Democrats win at all in 22? It was because of abortion. That's the one thing they had, and the riot that happened at the Capitol. But aside of that, nothing. And you got to really factor that in. Let's keep going. Look at this. When it looks at morally acceptable and morally wrong, there's a ton of gray area, of course. This is a very contentious issue. But when we're looking at it at the brass tacks, again, look at the swing states. So the Democrat position is more popular by 3% in Pennsylvania. North Carolina is the only state North Carolina is a state where Republicans have the moral majority. Michigan, the Democrats have a 17% lead, which is even more than Pennsylvania. So just going by that logic, then we can have a blue Michigan. So already Joe Biden's at 257. So that means that 1 or 2 states puts him over the 270 limit, by the way, to win the election writ large. But let's move on. Okay, Georgia and Florida with Arizona. So Georgia has the abortion side losing by 4%. In fact, 30% think it's wrong versus 26% think it's right. Of course, gray area is super hard to tell because that's 43% split down the middle, so we don't really know. But we're going off of the extremes, and out of the extremes, it seems to me as if Michigan's a very pro-choice state, Pennsylvania is a pro-choice state, North Carolina is going to be a Republican state on this issue, and in general, Georgia seems to, even though it's a swing state, is more conservative too. So there you go. So again, 257 to 254. It's extremely close, folks. Okay, but moving on, let's go on to the next state, Florida. Again, Florida is pretty socially liberal as well, but so many other things are going for Trump that you don't have to worry about that state. And if you do, it's already over. Arizona is the last state we're going to cover in this swing state prediction. So it has Trump losing by 13%. Okay, so 20% think it's morally wrong to commit an abortion, whereas 33% think it's okay. So going off of that, it seems like Arizona is going blue. Going off of just that. Now things could change, but I doubt it. Now to be fair, the polls only have let me see. Now it is of my opinion that Wisconsin is the most conservative out of the 3 Rust Belt states we're going to be talking about. So out of Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin tends to be the most conservative, just from what I'm thinking, because obviously, we just saw the polling. Now, the polling didn't cover the states of Nevada or Wisconsin, but this is going off of my headcanon, which is to say that this is like what I'm making up here on the spot. Now, the polling with all the people on the ballot has Trump up by 1.6. This is before, obviously, the abortion stuff happens. So it's going to get closer for sure, but I think Trump edges out considering the lead that he's had for this entire time. And when you look at the one poll that has Biden up by 3 in Wisconsin, it's the Wall Street Journal, which is far left. Okay, number 1. 2, when we look at it, we see that it's only 600 people being polled, whereas when we look at the biggest poll in the sample, we have Fox News with about 1,200, which is Trump plus 3. So let's balance that out, folks. So 264 to 268 is extremely close, of course. Nebraska's 2nd district might come into to factor here in the math, depending on how the state initiative goes there. So we're going to keep tabs on that. But basically what that's going to do is consolidate the electoral votes of the entire state versus just doing it by congressional district. But enough nerd speak. Let's get to Nevada. Now, Nevada to me is going to be super difficult because not only is it demographically somewhat similar to Arizona, which is super pro-choice, relatively speaking, but you also have to consider that Nevada is full of degenerates and whatnot. And, so it gets very, very, very difficult to see who's going to win this election. But when we look at the polls in Nevada, we're going to pull them up right now. And as you can see here, in a 1v1, Trump leads by 3.2. If we put it in a five-way election, which is likely to happen, Trump is leading by 5.5. So what you would need to see for Biden to win the state at that point would be that ostensibly you see 5.5% go for him and or something along the lines of this. So I did some very autistic math for Pennsylvania, and I thought that it basically helps the popular vote by 1.5%. This abortion hysteria does right now, which is going to be more prescient than it will be in November, by the way. So this whole abortion thing is going to simmer down in 6 months, in my opinion. But anyway, looking 7 months into the future, we can see that the popular vote goes up 1 or 2 points per swing state, depending on how pro-choice it is. Now, Nevada has no data on it that I can find, but from what I can tell is that Pennsylvania was definitely a closer state than is Nevada. So realistically, you would need a way bigger margin than I think is possible for Trump to lose Nevada. So if he's winning it by 5.5 right now, he might win it by like 2 or 3, but that's still a dub. In which case, we have Trump winning the state of Nevada, thus winning the entire election. 270 to 268. Of course, if Nebraska second factors in, then you could see it possibly coming to a House delegate vote. But I think the Republicans have the majority there anyway, with Trump having a stranglehold like Darth Vader over Luke Skywalker in regards to the House delegation vote. So that's a technicality. So I think Trump wins either way. So yeah, this abortion thing is a big freaking deal. If you guys like the prediction, like, comment, and subscribe. And also, by the way, comment down below if you like the new lighting. I got this thing from Walmart. It's a little square thing. Tell me if you like it, if you like the chain. Leave a comment, and I'll reply to every single one. And I'll see y'all on the other video. Bye-bye. Adios, actually. Bye.